What up, you guys? It's your girl, Sevyn Streeter, and you know I got soul.
Absolutely. What I like to do, Sevyn, when we start off, I always like to ask every artist that gets on here, what's a song in your catalog, or maybe something that you've written that when you look back at now, you're just like, yeah, like I killed that. That's the one.
A song that I feel like, yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
I'm probably, and I have a couple, but I'm always gonna say, I think Fine China was just like,
Yeah.
it was like one of a kind. You know what I mean? At the time that it came out, like
Yeah.
nothing else sounded like that. You know what I mean? So it was inspired by like a lot of the greats that came before us. So I love that aspect of it. And then I love the fact that it brought that sound into that period of time, you know?
Yeah. And that's a song you can still listen to today. The live strings, like that. That's a great song right there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about the new album, Drunken Wordz Sober Thoughtz. A long time coming. We've been waiting on this album. I got a chance to listen to it. I tweeted it out. Like, I just love what you did with the sequencing of the album. The songwriting is obviously going to be great. Took you some time to get to this point. Just take me through the journey of putting this whole thing together.
Well, first and foremost, thank you. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that you like it.
Yeah.
Make my ears and my heart happy. Thank you.
Yeah.
But no, Drunken Wordz Sober Thoughtz, it's been what 3-4 years since I put out a project. So a couple of different things happened, throughout that time. I say this all the time, like we're people, we don't feel the same way every single day.
Yeah.
And we go through so many different things. And for me, I lost my uncle to cancer. I went from being at a major to being independent and owning my masters. I went from just being in a relationship, then going through a breakup, and then filling out the dating, world a little bit. So it's just like so many different emotions. And so with Drunken Wordz Sober Thoughtz, the take that it kind of took a different meaning for me.
Right.
I wanted to give myself permission to be as honest and truthful and authentic and as genuine as I could. At the very moment that I felt any type of emotion, I wanted to write from that space. So I did that with every single song comes from, that's just how I felt at that very moment during that day. And it wasn't, oh, well, what if it's not, lovey enough? Or what if it's not, radio enough? Or what if it's not whatever? Just, if that's how you feel, create it. So that's how each song was specifically curated in that way.
Yeah. And I mean, the album came out 2 weeks ago, but the journey really started with Yearnin', records like Yearnin', What You
Mhm.
Say. There's all these great records that didn't end up making the final cut, but just take me through the process of, trying to figure out when you were actually gonna come out with this album. Like Guilty was kind of the one that kind of sparked it all at the end. Like, just take me through that journey.
Well, Yearnin' came at a time. I think I did Yearnin' 2 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe, like something like that.
Yeah.
That record came. I think that was kind of like my first like fuck it record. You know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
like I really just don't give a fuck. Like I just like I think I had some Hennessy in my system.
Right.
It was one of those nights. Possibly somebody had pissed me off that week, and it was just like, okay, if you don't like me, say it to my face. But I like that because it really was the beginning of the, well, if this is how you feel today, then you write specifically how you feel.
Right.
That's how that record came along. And then What You Say came along because, like I said, I've been dating here and there. So I'm like, come again? Like, what you say? Oh, okay.
Right.
So it's been a little journey, Yearnin', What You Say, HMU, Hit Me Up,
Yeah.
that's another one. It's just kind of playing around in different type of pockets of R&B and not feeling like I had to sing a certain type of R&B,
Yeah.
that was important to me. So, and then, as I was releasing those records, I never stopped recording. So in between those songs, there'll be, 10 more songs recorded. Then I go, does this feel like how I feel right now? Does it not? Let this one can stay, let that one go. This one can stay, let that one go. And so it started to build in the pockets in between the songs that I put out. And next thing I know, yeah, it was just a whole different body of work, you
Yeah.
know. The album from, let's say, 2, 3 years ago, that was Drunken Wordz Sober Thoughtz,
Yeah.
ended up not, it's a completely different album than the one
Mm,
the guys got. But I think that, records to me, songs to me, I'm like, okay, it's not over till the fat lady sings. So I'm gonna keep recording and creating all the way up until we have to put the record out and give it to you guys.
right. At what point do you know that it's time to put the record out? Because you're always in the studio. I think your mindset is you always want to make a record better than your last one. So that could be
Yeah.
a vicious thing that you keep going until, that never ends. So when did you know, all right, it's time to put this out?
I think I knew it when, well, for one, I did want to give myself a cap. I didn't really want to do more than 14, 15 songs.
Right.
That always helps. And then just from listening to it, when I would, even with the records, like you said, that didn't make it, Hit Me Up,
Hmm.
Kisses, which records I love, Yearning,
Yeah.
I love those. But I wanted this particular body work to have a certain mood and to tell a certain story. So it's kind of like this body work is it's a little dark, it's a little
Yeah.
scary, it's a little alternative at moments.
Yes.
It's still rooted in R&B.
Yeah.
And I always, I get this saying from Mark Pitts has always said this all my life. He'd be like, oh, if you play something, you go, oh, that made me spill my drink. You know what I mean? So when I was
Yeah.
listening back to the last, final track listing, as I would click through certain records, would kind of make me go, like how that last chord went into this, the new chord for the next record. So it's like it had to flow seamlessly. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
how I decide. I know it's not really like a bona fide way to express that, but
Yeah.
that's my process.
Right. And it came out at the right time, I think. Every record on there, I think, makes sense for you. And like, I gotta say, Sevyn, like you've been through different label situations before. I'm curious, what was different about this time around when you left Atlantic to pursue where you're currently at? Because like I said, you've had record situations before and you've been through those transitions. What was different this time around?
Well, for one, I've had like really amazing experiences,
Yeah.
as teenagers. I've really enjoyed them and I've learned a lot. But this go around, it was kind of like I got to kind of take all of, the little tools from other different situations that I had, I put on my tool belt
Yeah.
and apply it to the situation that I'm in now. So it's, when you're independent, you are very much so leading, your own ship, so how do I want the visuals to look? How do I want this treatment to feel? What is the aesthetic for the overall? Like so many different things, and I think that the biggest, I don't know, I guess the biggest thing that I have honestly just really just appreciated
Yeah.
from this space is that I love to learn. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You always want to be better, and I like to know what every single department is doing and how I can. You know what I mean? I like that, and so in this situation, I'm super hands on, and I'm learning more than I've learned ever. You know what I mean? So I'm here for that.
Right. And what's cool is like even after you left your major situation, I've always felt like no matter what, you're gonna be fine because you can write, you're great at that, you can create great songs. But, was there ever a time during that transition where you were like, all right, like, what am I gonna do now? Was there any doubt during that period? Because that is a big career move for you to go independent.
It really is. I think that like anytime we're leaving one situation and we're growing into another,
Yeah.
it's always going to be a little scary. That's normal. That's life.
Yeah.
It's like when you graduate from high school and you go to college. You know what I mean? When you are leaving one position and you have what's the word I'm looking for? You're promoted to another position. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's a new playing field.
Yeah.
You got to learn all of your parts. You got to figure out how everything moves. And I think that at the end of the day, the thing that has sustained me the most is, for one, my relationship with God and learning myself more. You know what I mean? Like even throughout the pandemic, and
Yeah.
before that too, but especially during the pandemic, we all spent so much time with ourselves.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, the things that were a little bit scary was literally just trying to figure out, well, what is it that you want to say? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? What do you want your art to look like? And it was only scary until I really sat with myself and just did the work and meditated every day and wrote things down. And I have vision boards and whiteboards all around my living room. You know what
Mm,
I mean? It was like, it's always scary until you like, for me, until I write it down.
right.
When I can write things down and sit back and just look at it, it starts to make itself make sense. So if there was ever any doubt,
Yeah.
it really just was in the unknown. But then once you get to know yourself a little bit better, it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right, like same girl, different playground. Let's figure it out. Let's have fun. You know?
Yeah, and just watching your growth as an artist, because like I remember when Rich Girl came out like a decade ago, and we got to watch you guys develop as artists, and that was super cool just on YouTube. And now watching you develop into a businesswoman, like when I check out this project and even the visuals that went into it, like your music videos, they're not cheap music videos. They look like they're professionally done. Like you're serious about this.
Yeah, I love what I do. I love
Yeah,
music. Listen here, I have been through a lot in this industry,
yeah,
but nothing in the world that will ever stop me from being a creative and being living in that purpose. And so for me, I just want everything to be the best that it can be. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that that it's received that way. I'm glad that it comes out that way because I do care.
yeah,
People spend their hard-earned money on our art. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like whether they're buying a song or even spending their time to even take time to listen to it. So I don't take that lightly at all. I never have,
right.
and I just want to make it the best that it can be for the people who want to subscribe to anything Sevyn Streeter.
Right. What's cool also is hearing your growth sonically as an artist. I saw a tweet recently, you replied back to it. Someone had said, this album is cool, but I miss the old Seven. And I looked at that like, you got to let artists evolve. You got to let them grow. And you made it perfectly clear as well. You said you're not the same person that you were 5 years ago, and neither are they. So you should just let the artist create.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting, and
Yeah.
I like talking to my fans, and I like to know what songs they love, what sounds they love,
Yeah.
what concepts they're drawn towards. Like I love that, so I appreciated the fact that they are in love with the other bodies of work because I am too.
Yeah.
Those are other sides of me, other versions of me.
Yeah.
But I meant what I said, and it was ended up being a really great conversation between me and the fan because,
Yeah.
to ask the question, are you the same person that you were 5 years ago? And they
Hmm.
said, absolutely not. And I think that that's that's a thing that people like to, don't even like to, but they just sometimes don't realize that we're really no different. It's just so happened that we kind of live public lives sometimes, but we go through
Right.
the same things. You know what I mean? So you can't. If I were to ask them to dress the way that they dressed 5 years ago, they would not, and they probably couldn't. Or to to speak on a topic from 5 years ago that a series of different life experiences has completely changed those views. And now they'll probably speak about that same topic completely different 5 years from now. So
Right.
it's the same thing with writing. I write from the things that I see every day. Sometimes I pull from the past and things like that, but for the most part, especially now,
Yeah.
I'm very much so. Um, I just want to be immersed in where and how I feel right now and speak truthfully to that art. And then maybe, a year later, 2 years later, or whatever, every time you get new art from me, please don't expect the same kind of art.
Right. Yeah.
Don't ever expect that from me. I appreciate everybody liking everything, but it's never going to be the same kind of art. It'll always be a different version of myself.
And most importantly, it has to be genuine, and that's what comes across on this album. It feels like a Sevyn Streeter album. And I'll say this, right? Like, I think because you're such a versatile artist and you do so many different types of sounds, like people are gonna have their favorites. Like music that I love from you the most are like the Before I Do's, They Won't Stop, like that mid slow tempo. But when I listen to this album, it's like I still get Sevyn Streeter, like the Sevyn Streeter that I knew from when I first listened to you, like Feel Away and Nasty Girl. That kind of reminds me of the stuff that you did with Chris early on, like on that same vibe. So the Seven is still there. You just have to be open minded and listen to it for what it is.
I love you. You hit me. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to get into some of these records here on this album because there are a couple of gems here. I know everyone's been hitting you up about Taboo, the one that D Mal did. It's pretty
Mhm.
much on your timeline. I see it. Just talk about that record because that one is great.
Man, thank you. That record, Taboo, is a very special record. First of all, shout out to Alexander O'Neill.
Yeah.
Uh, we love playing with samples over here in the Streeter House. Okay, we love them because we stand on the shoulders of giants in real life, and yeah, I love me some Alexander O'Neill. But D Mile is he's the culprit, okay, because I sent us this pack, right? I was in a session. It was me, Micah, Eric Dawkins, and Vincent Perry, and JP, who was my engineer slash A&R, who has amazing ears. So we're all in the session. We're going through this folder, and ran across this Alexander O'Neill beat, and Micah gets up and starts to dance like an 80s R&B artist, and he's joking around and playing around. We looked at him and he was like, nah, like this feels really good. We're like, yeah, it feels good.
Yeah.
And popped it off, you know what I mean? Honestly, me and Micah we call this, that's my musical hubby. And I'm his musical wife. We tease about that all the time. But we wrote It Won't Stop together. We wrote Before I Do together. And we wrote, obviously, Taboo together now.
Yeah.
So that mid-tempo kind of R&B, like that space that you were just speaking of, he has a great deal to do with that for me. And then Eric Dawkins is honestly like OG, like amazing, like, I mean, I can't even, his discography is insane. Like all of the hits from the Underdogs, plus all of his gospel, everything. He's such an amazing songwriter. And the same thing with Vincent Berry. He is a genius. He did Sandcastles for Beyonce. So it's like their approach to music, and they care about the melodies, and they care about what we say. And it just ended up being a great discussion, and we just only wanted to make the song the best that we could. And then, like I said, my engineer A&R JP is like, his ears are like gold. So it was a really great room, and everybody's intention was just set on making the best possible record that we could. And not to mention D-Mal did that beat like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I saw that too. That's crazy. But Sevyn, I've seen a lot of people say that you should make this a single. I'm with them. Make it a single, Sevyn.
I listen to y'all. I'm pretty sure we're definitely gonna make it one, because like I said, I'm glad that the fans like it, and they haven't had music, for me in some time. So I gotta give the kids what they want,
Yep. Another record I want to touch on is Feels with Lucky Day. I had a chance to speak to my guy, Eric Hudson. He told me he had such a blast putting that song together. And there's a line in that song. It goes something like, it may have been good love, but that doesn't mean it was real love. Like that line is like, that's a real line right there.
Because sometimes we experience like things may feel good to us, especially in the moment. But you wake up the next morning after had a little liquid courage the night before, you realize hey, it was just good. It might not have been real, but it was still good. No, thank you for that. And I do that record. And we actually, I love the story of how a lot of these songs were built, because we started that record in Orlando. It was myself and Kevin Cossum and his producer July. And Kevin Cossum is an amazing songwriter, amazing creative, and July is amazingly talented. So it started out there, and then we got here to LA, and we had a session with Eric, and that boy is something crazy on that bass. When he get on that bass, there's no stopping him, and he's such an amazing creator. So he just like added his special, special things to it, and it ended up becoming a really, really beautiful record. And Lucky's vocals are just like velvet. So Lucky can sing. He can literally sing the alphabet to anybody, and they sit there and just let him, because his voice is amazing. So it was a really good vibe. Oh, and then my friend Drew Love. Drew Love is an amazing songwriter, artist. Well, he's from the group They. And Drew came in on the second verse with Lucky and I, and helped us pin that thing right on up. So I love collaboration. I love when everybody is, you know, like I said, when their intention is just to make the art the best that they can make it, you know.
Right. No, that's a great song. And lastly, I got to talk about the record Liquor Courage. You had been talking about this record for a while. So when that album came out, that was the one I was looking forward to. I was also curious on just the title of the record, how conceptually you're going to put it together. Just talk about that song because that's one that hits the feels.
Thank you. Liquid Courage is
Yeah.
actually, it's the oldest song on the project.
Yeah.
It is the old, that song is probably 4, if not 5 years
Wow.
old. It's an old song. It was like the first song that kind of sparked the direction of the project. I know that I was really upset when I wrote it. Really upset. I was, you know, dealing with my ex, and it just bothered me. You know, the song says, let's say I drink my liquor in the morning, pour a little courage in my coffee cup to get my day going. Niggas in my phone can remember their name because it ain't important. And you
Hmm.
stay on mine when I'm out at night. That's a lie you can't afford. You know, but you say I'm too loud when I'm upset. So go find a new bitch that you think is perfect, and I'll start the countdown to when you come back in town.
Wow.
Like it was some real shit. It was like, okay, so maybe you think I'm a little too vocal and I'm a little too emotional or whatever you may think. Well, how about you go out there and you and try your hand out there, and then we'll see how long it takes you to get back here. And
Mm.
that was what I was going through with one of my exes. So that song was a very honest song. It's produced by KP, who also produced Yearning.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so it was a really that was it's the oldest kid of the bunch, but it held us down and helped create what the rest of the project is on.
Yeah, because I feel like that record, without that record, Drunken Wordz Sober Thoughtz doesn't happen. Like that's the record right there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
So
cool.
for sure. So Sevyn, you know, you brought up Fine China earlier. Of course, Chris is on the album on Guilty, and you're on Eric Bellinger's album. And I want to take it back to that time period when you guys were all just grinding. I think Harmony was part of that as well. This was like early 2010s. Take me back to that era because I feel like that is where your foundation was built, and people need to hear about the grind that you went through during that time.
Oh man, it was me and Eric and all of us, we talk about it all the time. It
Yeah.
was a beautiful time. Like we were just like, you know, we was just a little churn out here in the studios
Yeah.
every day. Like, you know, just we were just we were lost inside of the music, you
Hmm.
know. Like me and Eric talk about it literally all the time. Like
Yeah.
going to studio probably around, let's say, 3 and 4 p.m. and not leaving until the sun was up the next morning. And that was literally like our routine with working with Chris because I don't know if he still works like that late now, but that was our routine at the time. So
Yeah.
it was like going to Disney World every day. We went to
Wow.
and like, what can we throw against the wall and see if it sticks? And you know, what's the craziest melody we can come up with? What's the craziest line? And you know, it was the beginning before a lot of us had placements and things like that. So, you know, obviously your hunger is definitely a little bit different because
Yeah.
you just want it so badly. You know what I mean? You waiting for that moment to hear your song on the radio. You know what I mean? You're waiting for that moment to get that phone call to say, hey, you know, this song made the project. So it was just great times. And Courtney Harrell too was another
Yes.
singer songwriter.
Yeah.
And that's my girl. And she was, and all of us were in there just having the time of our lives, being kids and creating.
Yeah. And lastly, I gotta ask, so you went through that whole school of songwriting. At what point did you realize, like, hey, I can actually write a record? Because you had told stories about during Rich Girl, you didn't really write a lot. You started learning, working with Chris. Like, at what point did you say, hey, I can actually write a record?
Well, the time that I think that it made me realize, like, because I think that I was like chasing to like I was chasing like some type of validation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You go like, oh, okay, I guess this means that I can write now. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because I was young, I didn't know. My first placement ever was Yeah 3 Times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think for me that was the moment because it was the first time that Chris ever left me in a studio alone to finish something.
Hmm.
And for him to come back and listen to it one time down and was like, all right, and went in to cut it. I was like, not to mention, you know, I written that verse probably like a million times because I was nervous.
Right.
Before he got there, I had just finished the verse, and so for him to come in and say that he liked it, and he went in and he cut it, and I'm sitting there like, oh shit! So those are the words that just came from my brain that he's singing out of his mouth that he likes.
Mhm.
Sounds good, and it's like, wow, okay, I guess I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit.
Yeah.
It was one of those, but it was great for my self-esteem as a writer.
Yeah.
Um, and that's really all it is. Once you realize that it's okay to just try things as a writer and as an artist, and sometimes it's gonna be good and sometimes it's not. But when it turns out to be good, it's like take that moment,
Mhm.
be proud of it, and use that confidence to move on and create more and more things. You know.
Yeah, and yeah, 3 times ended up being a mega smash, so there you
Mhm.
go.
Good one. Good.
Absolutely. So, Sevyn, that's all that I've got for you. The new album is out now. Is there anything that you'd like to add?
I just want to thank the fans for being patient. Like I said, it's been a little minute, but I've gone through a lot of different transitions. Over the last couple of years, and I'm very appreciative for the patience. And yeah, I love this project. I'm excited about the records that we're putting out. Wet Dreams featuring Jeremiah.
Yeah.
That video we just dropped, and I'm excited about that. So hope y'all get into that. And then Nasty Girl featuring Beta, which is I love that record.
Me
That's my
too. Yeah.
and my real little brother, my real life brother produced that record. So
Wow.
shout out to T Street. I'm very proud of him. Him and Charlie, he came through with the crazy drums. It was a beautiful, beautiful marriage. So shout out to him. But yeah, What Dreams featuring Jeremiah out now.
Yeah.
Nasty Girl featuring Bia might have a little visual
Nice.
for you guys with that. And yeah, Drunken Wordz, Sober Thoughtz. Continue to get in it. Continue to let the words speak to you and for you. And thank you.